And welcome back to the Kingsway Podcast.
Welcome.
It's good to see you, Ryan.
It's good to see you too. It's been a couple of weeks since we put out an episode.
It has. Apologize for that.
What's our excuse? Global warming?
I got sick. I wasn't feeling great.
Yeah. Trevor felt icky and we didn't want to transfer the ickiness via the internet.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to go viral in that way.
I'm still fighting it a little bit. But at the same time, I think we also just had our schedules flip-flop. You started teaching down in Joplin at OCC, some drumming. I
do drum and, as of this semester, guitar lessons too.
That's really cool. And I just got to see you play in chapel, and that was awesome.
It's great because their mixing style is like for college students, informed by CIY, which is like a high school youthy sort of conference, big worship, whatever. And so getting to play drums there, it's like, let me hit my kick drum, my bass drum. Like this giant subs shaking everything.
Yep.
I don't think I have my headphones in every week at Kingsway when I lead worship. I don't think that's how it sounds at our church.
It is not. It is not. It's
just
not.
double checking. It may have been this past week when Alex Carter ran.
No.
Alex, I say that because Alex loves subs, and I love Alex for loving subs. I'm talking about the speakers that are low and bassy when I say subs, by the way.
That's awesome. I always know that the music stuff is going to be like way more complicated than I can understand, but I feel like I can understand it when I hear it, but I don't know the difference, if that makes sense, until then.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, wow, like a little treble. But it's all about that bass.
It is. For Alex, at least.
Yep.
I'm saying it out of full love, because if you've ever seen his car, it's like a, I don't know, maybe Alex doesn't want me telling everybody about all his personal life, but his trunk doesn't exist. It is subs.
It's subs.
There's no trunk.
That's awesome.
That's not the grocery store car.
I'm going to have to ask him
in the family
to let me listen to that. I want to hear it. I haven't heard it
He was
before.
showing me Praise by Elevation that we did at kids camp in his car with the subs. I'm gonna whoa, like, as loud and
I apologize if that was so loud in your ear right now.
Violently shaking as possible. So sorry. If you're just listening, this is currently the worst episode we've ever done.
Well, it's now confession time because it is the next book club. And I have to tell you guys something. It's total transparency. Ryan knows. I did not read the books.
As a refresher, but it's already in the title. This was the Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis. We were going to make it 2 months, end up making it 3 months because it's 3 books.
Yep.
I don't blame you. I read all of them. And by read, I mean listened on an audiobook. I'm getting a spam call, so I'm going to screen that. Thank you, Google Pixel. Hi, I'm a Google virtual calling assistant recording this call to... Anyway, you get it. It was a hard read, and it was 3 books. So I took about a month a book, and I listened to them while driving and doing other stuff. I got sucked into these books, but it's such a hard read. I haven't read Dune, but I was sitting next to Sharon when she read Dune, and I think they're probably comparable. This one was written, these 3, Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis was written in the early 40s to probably late 40s, early 50s, during World War II.
Yeah.
He's from the UK, kind of a part of World War II. Yeah. There's a whole section of World War II where London is, and probably other parts of the UK, are just getting bombed forever.
Yep.
He wrote it during that. And then Dune is from the, I think very early 1960s, maybe late 50s. So the author of Dune is probably familiar with Lewis's work because Lewis and Tolkien are friends. Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings and all that stuff. That's kind of the birth of mainstream fantasy writing.
Yeah.
Like high fiction, not realistic in a there's aliens and there's other stuff in it. So
well, and you were telling me it's meant to be almost like a modern day fable.
Yes.
So I like that way of helping me understand what the books are meant to be. Because in all honesty, I've tried to read this trilogy before, and I think I even told you that. Like my brother loved this trilogy, and he like tried to get me to do it, and I bought the first book, and I literally made it like a quarter of the way in, and I was like, I can't do it. I had almost the exact same experience.
So if you're listening to this right now and you're like, I haven't read it, or if you're like, I don't know if I want to read it, this episode is still for you. What we're doing in this episode versus past episodes where it's me and Trevor talking about a book that we've read.
Yeah.
What we're doing is selling you on a book, maybe, or at least advertising a book that you could read. And so it's okay if you haven't read it. If you have read it, welcome. You get to join the conversation and know more of what I'm talking about and more details of everything.
And there probably will be some spoilers, but hopefully not to the point where it's like ruining.
There's no more spoilers than I saw on ads for this book.
Okay.
So like the back cover of each of the 3 books, it's almost 80 something years old at this point, the different parts of the series. And so there's about 100 different back covers you might find, but the Amazon listing, description, stuff like that, I'm not going to go beyond that in any spoiler way.
Okay.
So here is the whole series. It is I'm going to start with the beginning of the 3rd book. Lewis, the author, writes this really interesting thing. He's a like historian, but also he's friends with Tolkien, who I think is also a historian, but either a real or a hobbyist philologist, which is where you study words and languages and how languages work and compare them and all that kind of stuff. He's a historian, and he brings in this really cool historical fact. He talks about fairy tales and how when we read a fairy tale, we think genre-wise it needs to have castles and knights and dragons and sorcerers and whatever. And but the big thing is castles and knights and medieval and whatever. And he said for the origin readers of those fairy tales, the first readers of those fairy tales, or listeners, I guess, if they were told, that was their experience, is castles and knights and villages and farming and that kind of stuff. The background of Robin Hood, even though the Disney one with the fox, the animated one, is their background.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like starting in a far off medieval, like different kind of time. It's their time. So that's what C.S. Lewis does with each one of these 3 books. I'll talk about how they're connected and how they work together or whatever. But he doesn't start with castles and knights, even though he's telling a fairy tale, because in his perspective, and he thinks it's historically accurate, a fairy tale written today would, like if I wrote a fairy tale right now, it would start in Southwest Missouri.
Yep.
And it would be about this year. And over the course of time, you'd gradually be further and further steeped in some mystical, mysterious world, but it starts from where you live.
Yep.
So all 3 books do that. All 3 books start in 1940s England, I think. Maybe the 3rd one starts a little later. It seems like the main character ages at least a mildly significant amount between the 2nd and the 3rd book, but kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're all written where he's from. 1940s England. Even the main character is a college professor who's a philologist, who's a language expert.
Okay.
Not just an expert at English, but an expert at how languages work and how they work together and are similar and different. So there are 3 books. It goes Out of the Silent Planet, Perelandra, and then the last book is That Hideous Strength. Every book feels like a show that is worried about getting canceled. So it's all the same, maybe not all the same characters, but a lot of common characters, common language for like the mystical world that's set up, but a fully different feeling book every time. So the first one is, you find this out in the first couple chapters, so I'm not spoiling anything crazy. So the main character's name is Elwin, E-L-W-I-N, Elwin Ransom, and he's the philologist from some Ivy League, whatever, European college. And he's walking down the street, and he's like on a walking tour. That's fully out of my context. I don't know what that means. There's no walkable places that aren't a big bustling city here, or maybe the East Coast a little bit. He's on a walking tour in a break from school, like fall break or something like that, of some English town he's never been to. and they don't have cell phones, they don't have computers, so he's like trying to find a place to stay for the night. This lady, all the inns are full and stuff like that, and they find this lady and asks if he can stay with her, and she's like, I can't even think about that. I don't know where my son is. I can't find him. Usually he works with this professor and his assistant at this house up the hill, and he comes back at 5 every day on his own, and he's not back yet, and it's like 7. And if he were home, I'd have a better answer for you. And so he just kind of goes on and is like, I guess I'll just keep my eyes out for this boy, but the thing I really need is to find a place to stay.
Yep.
It's night. I'm walking by myself. So he just kind of stumbles upon this guy's house, and he hears some weird noises in the backyard, and he goes back there, and the two guys are like wrestling this kid down, and the kid is saying things like, don't put me back in there. I don't like it. And so a little freaky, but both guys are like well-spoken, college educated, highbrow, whatever. Yeah. And they're like, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And they use their own words in their own context for like less mentally developed or able to be mentally developed, not just unschooled, but like has like learning disabilities or whatever. Like he's got some stuff and he just got spooked by this thing and whatever. And so Elwyn doesn't want to leave. He's like, kind of can't just be like, sure. And his mom wants him to come home, and they're like, not until he does his work or something. They're kind of hesitant to it. But then Elwyn realizes that one of the highbrow guys is his colleague that he went to school with, isn't teaching with, but went to school with, kind of hated him, but he wants to catch up and like, hey, how's it going? They let the kid go, and Elwyn's sitting there with him, and they're like, you want some tea or whiskey or something? There's a lot of not Midwest conservative Christian stuff in here. I think I heard every curse word. I heard about alcohol so much.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like the everyman's experience in their time and place.
Yeah.
So yeah, just be aware of that. Anyway, so they give him some like whiskey or brandy or maybe some tea or other stuff, and then he starts falling asleep in the chair, and he realizes he's been drugged. And when he wakes up, this is before space travel has been invented. When he wakes up, he's on a very confusing house flying through space is probably the best way to describe it. It's a sphere. It is a spaceship, but it's not a rocket ship like we would think. It's like a sphere flying through space with different rooms, and they have limited oxygen. So like, don't talk to us because we need to conserve our oxygen, and don't ask questions and all this like mysterious, crazy stuff. You find out that he's been taken in place of this boy to go to another planet. The planet is called Perelandra.
Okay.
They say that's the name that the planet has, not that humans from Earth gave it. That's its own self-given name. Yeah. Or like the inhabitants from there named it that. So that's planet number 1 is Perelandra. Book number 2 is Perelandra. That's another planet. And then book number 3 is on Earth. I don't want to spoil much else, but here's the big idea of what's happening in all the different books is that this is a space travel, other intelligent life forms kind of book written after H.G. Wells wrote some pretty scary stuff about space and how like was very pessimistic about space and other life forms. And if they're smart enough to be able to get to us, it's probably because they're just as bloodthirsty and they want to conquer and take resources just like we would. Lewis kind of hated that. Even mentions Wells by name in this book.
Wow.
And is like, writes an optimistic space travel book. He's not optimistic about people, but he's optimistic about the other creatures on other planets. And so there's a whole adventure on the first planet, Perelandra. It's really interesting. It has to deal with multiple different sentient species that respect each other and work together.
Okay.
Think about Lord of the Rings and elves and dwarves and humans and whatever, and how they're definitely different. They definitely have their own communities.
Yeah.
And they definitely specialize in different things. But it's kind of like different countries, like they're working together, they're sharing commerce, and they like help each other.
Yeah. It's like an ecosystem.
Yeah. And so in that, without spoiling anything, Ransom talks to some of them when he's like with different tribes of different species. He's figuring out their language slowly and like he's talking to him and like, so what if this other tribe tried to like hurt you and take over you. And he was like, what is that?
Mm.
Just fully unaware that was a possibility and like no stock in it.
Wow.
So kind of an innocence that like wasn't just is assumed to be untrue here.
So to my knowledge, when I was looking at this stuff and researching it, it sounded like this trilogy was something of like a heart project from C.S. Lewis. Like he was not just writing fiction.
Yes.
Like he was writing other things at the time. He was doing the radio broadcasts, which are mere Christianity, at the same time he was writing this. And it almost was like something that, and the ways that, and I don't want to spoil a ton, but it seemed like he was figuring out his theology and his understanding of the humanity and how divinity and the Bible stories and how kind of the unseen world is what we would say, like the spiritual world would interact with or look compared to what humans are. And he's kind of flushing all that out using these fictional characters and other planets and other things, and it seems to almost be a playground for him.
Yes, so he's big in philosophy and theology and all that kind of stuff. Half his books, at least, are some sort of Christian theology or Christian philosophical theology.
Yep.
But then some of his others, like Narnia is one of his most famous book series, and that's fully fiction. But if you've ever read or watched any of the Narnia stuff before, you know it's fiction, but it's also kind of allegory where it's like I'm using a story to teach you about stuff, like a parable that Jesus tells, but more high fantasy. There are other creatures that can talk and talking animals or talking this or that or whatever, and spiritual and mystical stuff can happen, magic, but the same kind of end. That's how I describe these books is it is a world. He's building a world in these books, and there's all the fantasy fiction kind of stuff. At the same time, it's him using all that world as a vehicle to talk about different theological and philosophical concepts.
Give me just like a couple of them to like, because I think like when people think about this, like I'm like, I get that it's probably like, because what I've found is when I'm reading these books, he does not let you in on what is going on very much.
He's
like,
not
you
bothered
are
with
in the dark a lot.
Yep.
And that is an uncomfortable feeling for somebody that I like reading things where I feel like there's mystery, but there's also a trust that's been built that like I believe I know what the character might do.
So let me bring up 2 or 3 of those kind of points where he's explaining or like painting a picture for something. So like I was talking about in book 1, there's a couple different sentient species. Their word for that is Hanoi or something like that. And so he'll like pry into that. Like, are these fish Hanoi? No. Are those that other tribe, that other intelligent species Hanoi? Yes. Who is your like leader? And they're all like, oh, it's Maleldeal is our king. He's our leader. And you're like, okay, who's that? Is he one of this tribe? No. One of this tribe? No. One of this tribe? No. Oh, is he like a spirit? Yes. Is he a Hanoi? Yes. He's one of these sentient beings who can coexist and like work economically in this world together. Not money, but like shared work, shared value. And whatever. That's a big conversation where when the 2 humans show up that I hope I'm not spoiling way too much. The 2 humans show up that have abducted Elwyn. They don't know any of this and they don't care to find out. Think about the attitude of some English colonizers, settlers, slave traders on the continent of Africa. They're not too concerned with learning the African culture, with learning their language, what's important to them, with creating mutually beneficial trade. They're kind of just exploiting.
Yeah.
When there's danger, they cower. When there's an opportunity for power, they flex and they hurt and they pry and they do whatever. And so like they're the weirdos on this planet who are like here to see like, okay, can we come and inhabit this planet and take it over from them and in God's name kill all these other beings that aren't human? Ew. But they all have a language and they all whatever. So that's some of what's going on in book 1. You asked other like philosophical
like I think
things.
I know that like characters interact with them, but it's really making the reader interact with them.
There's one that I mentioned this morning where Book 2 is sort of a restart of Adam and Eve in the garden and the decision to eat the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the original sin. You meet the Eve character, and she is so innocent. Not dumb, but innocent. And so just like some of the human stuff from book 1 is weird to some of these creatures. Like, why don't you kill and take charge over each other? And they're like, why?
Yeah.
We'd lose all the good stuff they bring.
Mm-hmm.
In that same kind of way, they meet the Eve character, and she's really innocent and is like, why would I want to disobey my creator's this or that or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
They're on another planet. It's Perelandra. The planet has some really interesting like mechanics to it that make it feel different than Earth. But she's so innocent, and Elwyn shows up and is kind of the good debater. And then there's a Satan character, a bad debater, who's trying to like encourage her and invite her to like disobey the creator and do this thing that he said not to do, but has no clear reason why that's good.
Well, and you were saying this morning, like even like she like watches them like interrupt each other.
Yeah.
And
is
like,
weirded out. She's like, why do you not just wait for him to be done? Or is it normal on your planet for people to be offended when somebody's done talking to just leave or just go to sleep?
Yeah.
And not in a rude way, but just in a totally inquisitive, like curious, blown away way.
Yeah.
So the big philosophical like phrase that comes up there a lot is they're talking about all these things and showing her some of the knowledge of good and evil, exposing her to some of it, some of the arguments for why would you take the fruit from the tree? Why would you not? Why would you wait for the creator rather than that just jump in and do the thing you think could possibly be right in your own eyes? One of the phrases they use during that, when she's innocent, but then being exposed to these arguments and ideas, she keeps saying like, you have made me older than I can bear. I need to rest for a while. Which is such a crazy concept, thinking about like growing in maturity or whatever as being older.
Yeah. I know when you said that this morning, I was talking about my 9-year-old asking about what the word maturity means and having a little bit of a struggle, like putting it into terms that a 9-year-old could understand, but also like having a little bit of like an existential crisis of like, what is maturity? Like I'm like trying to, so that makes sense. It's like the loss of innocence. Yeah. And what that means is you don't have any excuse not to do the right thing, but you're also, while learning what the right thing is now, you should be doing it. And so it's like it is a loss of innocence, because on both sides of that coin, now that you know what you should do right, you should be old enough. You should know by now on what you should do. You should have a level of maturity, right? But then he's 9. So I'm like, maybe he's not. So
like the expectation of maturity is 9-year-old maturity.
Yep.
But you can go beyond that at any time.
Yep.
You just have to reach for it and like receive some of it from more mature people.
Well, and a lot of times when we say somebody's more mature than their age, they've been through things that have required them. So that's why that whole idea is you're making me older than I can bear.
That I can bear.
That makes me realize like someone that had to grow up too fast.
Yeah.
Like you had to grow up too quickly.
Either you had to grow up too fast because of a traumatic home situation or a traumatic event, or you had to grow up too fast finger quotes, because you were in a big family and you were the oldest, and so you had to start being a mom or a dad to some kids when you were still a kid.
Oh, I told,
and that grows you up so quick.
I drove in the parking lot 2 days ago, and Cooper was like, he's my 12-year-old. He was like, I was like, where do you think you're going to work when you grow up? And he's like, probably at the church. And I was like, well, I might be able to get you a job at the daycare. When you get older, you could like. He's like, oh, I don't watch kids. Definitely don't want to change diapers. And I was like, I was changing diapers when I was 12. And he was like, from who? And I was like, I babysat. He's like, you change diapers? I was like, yes, I've changed your diaper. Like, I was like, I'm
checkmate.
Checkmate. Like, what are you talking about? And just the experience on his face, like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yeah, I grew up pretty quick, dude. Like you're not going to have the same level of like understanding that I did when I was 12. So it's fun that you mentioned that. But I was curious, maybe out of the last book, if there's like one thing, because I love this insight. And if you like these types of things, I think there's a certain type of person that these types of books like scratch the itch.
Yeah. They did for me. Also, still hard to get through.
Yeah,
There are parts that really caught my attention, and it was just flying through it. And there are other parts that are like, I know what's going on, but why is this going on? Why spend all this ink on this part of whatever? So I guess in book 3, I'm trying to think of a thing to say that doesn't spoil anything.
And if there's not, okay.
So the big conflict in book 3, without spoiling anything, so this can be super vague. There's a good side and a bad side. There's a good organization and a bad organization.
Yeah.
And the good organization has some of this stuff that's been figured out from books 1 and 2, they realize is Christianity, but cosmic Christianity. So God has had a plan for those 2 other planets, and it doesn't involve a human Jesus. God has a plan for Earth. It did involve a human Jesus. Okay, now there's this new conflict, and the good side is the God side. And they've all kind of stumbled in to the good side. And the leader of the good side is like a heavy praying person. And so they're all seeing this evil side grow and fester and get its grimy fingers into all these parts of their community. And they're worried. And they're like, we got to do something.
Yep.
And the main guy is like, I agree, but I won't do anything until my leaders tell me. But he's talking about like God and maybe God sending an angel to tell him or something. Like
divine interaction.
Until they tell me to move, the only choices are wrong choices other than waiting. And so there are people in his organization, some who aren't Christians, who don't believe some of that kind of stuff. They've just kind of fallen into belonging there.
Yeah.
And so there's this one guy, he's very Scottish. If you listen to the audiobook, I had to get it through the library because the third one wasn't on Spotify. It was, but it was a full cast reading. And that was in the first 2. And so I was like, that's going to throw me off. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, this guy is super Scottish, not a Christian, doesn't believe in any of the mumbo jumbo, but just vaguely believes in the top guy in the organization. And he is constantly tearing down and like, where's the evidence for this and all this stuff. And he's always giving great reasons of like, we know they're growing at this rate. We know this is where this guy is or that this guy controls this. All we got to do is the 5 of us show up and just beat him up.
Yep.
Like
we
put him in a bag and throw him off a cliff.
Yep.
And he's like, not until they tell me. And it's crazy. The ending of that book, the ending of the whole series, is like fully of biblical proportions.
That's cool.
I want to talk about it so much more, and I can only spoil it.
Yeah, you can tell me off camera because
I will.
the thing.
You'll never read it.
No, I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read it.
Too British for some people to read.
The thing I'll tell you,
and it's from 80 years ago.
And this is a critique of only like probably the first third of the first book. So but again, the style of this book, the payoffs are just not worth those moments where I just could not keep my attention. And I have listened to a lot of different genres of audiobook. And this is also inside a different space series that has some philosophy and some like deeper theories that just gets into the weeds, and I lose track because I want to get back to the story. Yeah, I don't care about the philosophy takes over.
This is not Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. Those are like, and then they sang a song about this, and you're like, get on with it. This doesn't do that. It just describes stuff for way too long.
Yeah,
so it doesn't stop. It stops with verbs for a while. Like verbs that push the story along. It's just spending a lot of time describing stuff, but not like whatever. Here's my biggest critique of the book. Is that in C.S. Lewis's attempt to write with a bunch of mystery, so they're on a different planet and you can see Mars through a telescope, but actually when you get close, there's the whole civilization's like under the crust. There's like a sub layer under the dirt we can see, and it's vibrant and it's great. In his attempt to make that sound mysterious, he uses the phrase, well, it'll sound like this. It was do you guys not struggle with each other? Well, not as you would understand struggling. I heard not as you would understand that probably 200-300 times
Jeez.
in 3 books. And I'm like, just say something else.
Yep.
Say those words in a different order, please. Something like that. Be a little creative about how you're telling me that something is uncomprehendable, or saying like the closest comparison is like purple or jasper or whatever. Don't be like, not color like we have.
Yeah.
What? Give me something close. Give me something like the book of Revelation in the Bible doesn't do that, but he's doing the same thing.
Yep.
It was like this. This is as close as I can say.
So there's a series by Ted Decker called The Circle.
Yeah.
And it's black, red, and white. And it makes the Circle trilogy. And it has, I think, more of what I would want the story to be. Have you read that series at all? Okay.
No.
This is the similarities. A guy is running from somebody in New York City, the main character, and he is getting chased because I think something he's done wrong, whether I think he had some debts or things that, anyway, he trips and he hits his head and wakes up in this forest with this like space shuttle and this guy, and he doesn't remember how he got there, and he thinks it's a dream. And then lo and behold, he starts getting attacked by these creatures and runs. And anyway, when he falls asleep in that world, he wakes back up in the alley in the trash, and it just goes back and forth. And you're slowly realizing it's similar, where it's like the unseen world versus the human world. And it goes back and forth. And so when I remember reading that, and then my brother had suggested this. And so when I started reading this, I was like, I remember why my brother had suggested it. Because like, well, if you like that, this is a little bit deeper philosophically. But I mean, here's the thing. It is a classic work. Like if you get through this, it really is a classic work. And it's I think it's a heart note for some of like C.S. Lewis's, because it reminds me of like the Screw Tape Letters. It reminds me a lot of like
Book 3 has a lot of Screw Tape Letters similarities.
Yeah.
One, not so much. 2, some.
Yeah.
Because like I said, you meet an Eve character, and then there's a good and a malicious debater. I'm saying malicious instead of bad because he was good at debating. He was just doing it for evil ends.
Yeah.
He's trying to lead her down the wrong path.
And The Great Divorce is the same way because it's a bus headed towards hell. And so like this is a common way that he does just the largest, probably grandest version of it.
Yeah.
So I think because of that, I wish I could finish it, but in so many ways, man, I just have other things that I'm like, nah, I've been reading other things.
The hardest part is that this is like pre-microwave food.
Yep.
It's like, hey, bake this casserole for 2 hours. And you're like, McDonald's is 10 minutes away. I can have my food in 12 minutes. Why would I?
I think
that's what it feels like.
I really do think too. It just got to a point where I was going to make myself do this, and I think it was going to cost me more than I wanted to get out of it. And I was like, Ryan, I'm so sorry. I can't do it.
Most books have like a hook or a thing, and they want to like keep you on the edge of your seat. And so interest-wise, 10% into the book, you're at like 50% interest.
Yep.
20% of the book, you're at like 80, 90% interest.
Yep.
And then it stays pretty close to the top 20% the whole book. That's how good fiction books are written today. This book, 10% into the book, you have 10% interest.
Yes.
20% in, you have 20% interest. Yep. It is a straight climb where by the end you're like, whoa, that's so cool. But 70% of the way through the book, you're like, I'm starting to get it.
Yep. That's what it felt like.
Long
that felt like
some people.
That felt like that to me. I was like, I need the hook. And then I think because of the vagueness, I just didn't attach to the characters.
Yep.
And I am a character-driven person.
Yep.
I like good characters. So
I think about 40% into the first book, you start to like have enough of a grasp on the world and important characters that you're like, good.
Okay.
You can make it. But it takes that long. Basically, I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone. But if you're reading this and you're like, am I there yet to that point Ryan was talking about? Ask yourself this. Did the main character meet a gorilla? If you haven't met that gorilla, you're not to the point where it's like, okay, we're getting there.
Okay.
A gorilla-ish kind of character, not as you would understand gorillas. Get out of here.
Okay, Ryan, here's the point. What are you giving it out of 5 stars?
Because I've made it through, like 4.5 or 5.
Really?
Loved it. But it's also my style. It's right up my alley.
Okay.
If I had gone 40% through the first book, I'd give it like 2 stars.
Okay.
If I had made it through the first book and then got 30% of the second book, like 2.5, 3 stars. If I did that and made it about 30, 40% of the last book, like 3 stars. So every book ending is the best part of the book.
Okay.
And it is a straight climb to where the
So
further
third
you get
book
in, the
is
more you
reward.
like it.
Okay. Well,
They're
that's
all
good
the
to know.
reward. The ending of the first book's incredible. The ending of the second book is too long, but it's kind of incredible.
Mm-hmm.
The ending of the third book
is the best.
Is amazing.
It's the best. Okay.
It's such a payoff.
Well,
I have one more thing I want to say.
go ahead.
This is before space travel has ever happened. The way he talks about space is so crazy.
Really?
So, book 1, he's in a spaceship that's kind of like a sphere, but kind of like a house.
Yeah.
He's traveling through space. We got to reserve our oxygen supply. I was talking about that. He talks about how the sun feels like it's healing you on Earth. He's like, you wouldn't get it. That is blocked by the ozone layer and all this other stuff. When we're in space and the sun comes through the window to hit you, it feels like you're being healed from the inside out.
That's
There's
cool.
nothing to stop the sun's rays from giving you the life and the bliss that you've always wanted. And so that was super interesting. Book 2, of course, he goes to another planet. He's like basically in an escape pod that's like human sized. It's like a coffin looking thing. Because he travels straight from one place to the other, the right side of his body is sunburnt because it's closer to the sun. And I was like, whoa.
That's hilarious.
What? He even talks about like showing up to this planet and being like, I look ugly from the sunburn.
That's really funny.
So super interesting. There's a lot of like ghosty spiritual beings in there. But again, remember it by the end ties into Christianity. So it's vaguely the Christian idea of how spiritual beings work. That's vaguely how
That's
these
an
are.
interpretation, right? It's an interpretation.
Yes. What I'm saying is he thinks they are. You may disagree as a reader from your own Christianity and your own thoughts and whatever. But like he thinks they are. And so just know that. Just know that that's the framework he's coming from is Christianity. He wrote this in the early 40s. He was convinced of theism in 1929 and became a Christian in 1931.
Yeah.
So he's only been thinking this way he's been thinking this way for a full 10 years while in college.
And
That's
now
a lot
going
of
through
thinking.
a world war.
So, yeah.
That's wild.
When I said earlier, like H.G. Wells' space stuff was very pessimistic, and he's very optimistic. That's the thing that carries all the way through, is generally optimistic other than about people. Again, he's in the middle of World War II. So every time people show up, or most of the time when people show up, it's a bad
It's not a good thing.
Most people are terrible in this series.
Well, I mean, but that's what the world looks like at this time.
Yeah.
That
They're
makes
all
sense.
hungry. They're all clout chasing. They're all selfish. They're all whatever, with some exceptions.
Well, Ryan, I fit that. And I'm so proud of you for not being giving into what would have been easier is just to give up on this. You followed through. You finished. You crossed the line. And kudos to you.
Yep.
And you are now the book club champion. What are we doing next? Have we picked that book out yet?
We haven't picked that book
I
out.
wondered if we hadn't.
Here's my suggestion. I'll talk it out loud with you right now.
This is live.
I might cut this out, but I might not. So we're going into a Roman series at church.
Yeah.
Do you want to make one of those books a book that touches on Romans?
Could be. We
Because I
haven't.
was thinking N.T. Wright, Into the Heart of Romans, and hopefully it isn't as terrible as in hard to get through as Simply Christian.
I think I've read. That's actually one that I've read before or was assigned in college.
It's pretty recent.
Okay.
I bet
maybe it's
you
not
haven't.
that one.
He has I'm assuming a bunch of books on Romans, but at least a handful.
Maybe it could have just been one that was like Pauline Romans or
Probably.
something. I think it was like Paul and Romans or something. I mean, here's the thing. I think I need something that I enjoy. So I don't know if N.T. Wright is going to be the thing that I'm like, I want to enjoy Romans.
What about that? Not this month, September, but next month during October.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Let's just throw something in here.
Yes.
That you and I would like.
I'm going to cut this out, I think.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks so much for listening. And Ryan, again, you're awesome. I appreciate you for giving us that review. I think there's probably more than a couple of you that have either read the trilogy or are thinking about relating it. So you should totally do that. As always, feel like send this to somebody or leave a review or hit the subscribe button at least, and hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed it on YouTube. That always helps the algorithm, helps us know what you guys like. Leaving comments also helps us know if you enjoyed this or anything like it. It's always what we want.
Yep.
So
I'm going to tell you our next book.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you because I'm picking it out thinking that you'll like it.
Yeah.
And so here's a couple of reasons. I think Trevor will like it more than being a super British space fiction from 100 years ago. I'm also telling you guys.
Yeah.
Because it's coming off of our series on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
Called Unstuck.
There
we go. Sorry.
You were stuck.
I was very stuck.
Now you're unstuck.
So sorry. I'm in the wrong spot. There we go. Okay, I found it. Our next book that we're going to read is called Your Future Self Will Thank You. Secrets to Self-Control from the Bible and Brain Science.
Cool. I like
It's got a puppy on it.
Your future self will thank you.
Yep.
All right.
And you can let your present self thank us by subscribing.
Yes, you
leaving
can.
a comment. That was terrible.
Well, hopefully we'll get back on track this next month. And as always, go back and look at some of the other book club books we've read. They've been really good and encouraging. And hopefully we'll find another fiction one before the end of the year. That'll be fun to read as well. I'd really like to find something else. Maybe we'll do a Ted Dekker book. If you've
something
never
not British. I've never read fiction that wasn't young adult or like The Hobbit or this series.
Okay. Well, I'm going to hope you figure that out. That'll be your challenge then.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to figure that out. Cool. Well, have a great and glorious day in the Lord. Until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya.